Hi everyone, and welcome back to Fantasy Fellowship YouTube. My name's Sarah. I am the Fantasy Fellowship founder, and I'm here this evening with some friends to talk about the books that we've read together in the community over the last 18 months. So I started the Fantasy Fellowship Book Club in March of 2021, and when we first started, there was just a handful of people that had got together. I think for the first couple of months we had around 30, but it's always been amazing. And now we have grown to, we've just hit 700 members, and we're doing all sorts of things now, but we do remain a book club. And the guys that I'm with tonight have been here all along, so they're going to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sally. I've been here since the beginning, and I'm the administrator on the Discord. When Sarah reached out on Instagram for someone to help her with the tech side of Discord, I volunteered. And when I joined, everyone was in general chat, and that was it. So it's created lots more channels, and it's been lovely watching it grow. So yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I've been with the Discord since May last year, so not quite as long as everybody else, but it's been wonderful. And I was very privileged to be head wizard in the last readathon, and I am now heading up our indie committee, promoting all the indie published books out there.
Hello everyone, I'm James. I have an official title, which is assistant to the regional manager, which is Sarah. Not quite sure what that involves, but I have been here from roughly day one, and I'm really pleased and excited to be participating in the first ever sort of book club talk tonight.
So shall we start from the beginning? And our first ever book club read was...
By magic.
But The Lies of Locke Lamora. So we've always voted for our book club reads every other month, and they've kind of got a lot. The votes have become a real thing in the last few months.
They have.
Just like they were a lot calmer. And I remember this one so well because we were voting between. I think we were voting between a few, but the main runners were The Lies of Locke Lamora and The Name of the Wind, and they were both rereads for me, but I was like really excited to read either of them with a group. And then The Lies of Locke Lamora won, but I feel like the general reception to it in the book club wasn't as positive as I thought it would be.
No, I didn't read it because I'd read it a long time ago, but it was interesting watching everyone's reaction because I know it's quite a well-loved book and that it's highly praised, but I didn't get on with it so well when I read it all those years ago, so it's kind of validating for me.
I didn't know
really.
that.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting to see that people weren't so enthralled with it either. But even though I didn't like it very much, there were still aspects of it that really stuck with me and influenced. I write as a hobby, and that book definitely, I can pinpoint bits in that book that I have taken on board as a writer and used myself. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Writing style or...
Yes, yeah, because I kind of it's set in a fantasy world that doesn't really have magic, but there are like magical elements that it doesn't. And it was sort of like the first time I'd seen even like Joe Abercrombie, who uses a similar kind of genre, still has magic, and it was my book that I write is like in a secondary world but doesn't really have magic, so it influenced it in that way, made it possible, as it were.
I love how Sally's managed to mention Abercrombie within like the first 5 minutes.
Oh, we'll get to him.
And it's not just Abercrombie. The plug for I am a writer. Look out for me. My book is coming.
Yeah, that was good. We're all excited.
The next 50 years.
Maybe if we start giving you jobs on the Discord, it will be sooner.
Mm.
But you liked it, James, didn't you?
It's my favourite. So I've got notes in front of me, and I think Lies of Locke Lamora, what I wrote down was that was my favourite of all the book club picks that we've done. Not necessarily because of the book itself, but because it was the very first time that I'd ever participated in a book club or done anything like a buddy read or things of that ilk. And I don't know, I was thinking about this when I was driving to work the other day, and like, why did that mean so much to me? Well, I've never hidden my personality and the things that I like to do. And okay, I read a lot of historical fiction, but fantasy sits quite nicely alongside that. And I've always done it, but I've never really had a friendship group or family members that have enjoyed doing that with me, or I can turn to and talk about the book. And then all of a sudden, when we started the Discord, it was kind of in between lockdowns in the UK. You know, I found it so refreshing that, you know, not only was I reading this book for a little bit of escapism, which is why I read and enjoy reading, but there was a load of other people that were doing exactly the same thing, and we were discussing it, or parts. I remember the feeling there is definitely a need for someone to draw a map for the Lives of Locke Lamora of the city, because it got very confusing where people were. But you're going through that journey with them all, and you know, it opened my eyes to actually what an online community can be like, to do this sort of reading, and you know, and to be really sentimental about the whole thing. You know, on my shelf now, I've got all these books that we've done as these sort of buddy reads or book club picks. And I don't just have a memory about reading the book or enjoying it or not enjoying it. Actually, I also have that memory of actually the discussion that goes with it, and different, you know, perspectives of things that happen in the books, or, you know, different viewpoints, people that like it or maybe didn't get on with it so much. So yeah, for all of those reasons, you know, all those lovely soft give me a hug reasons, are the reasons that, you know, The Lives of Locke Lamora was the best one that we did. I still think that maybe Mr. Lamora is a little bit of a brat, but I will come back to read under, I think it's Under the Red Skies is the second one, isn't it?
So what you're saying
at
is
some
you
point.
started strong and then we've just gotten considerably worse over time.
No, I've got more used to it. I've got more used to it. There are better discussions that we've had, I think, as than with, because there's just so few of us. But now with, you know, 700 members sort of, you know, dipping in and out, there's so many different sort of views and opinions. It's fantastic. But that's why, you know, I really enjoyed Lives of Locke Lamora, because it opened my eyes to a wonderful community of what Fantasy Fellowship has grown into, and international as well now. So
That's really nice.
That.
That's really nice, because I wasn't around for The Lives of Locke Lamora, but I joined the Discord and Bookstagram because of lockdown, and because I got back into reading because I had more time. And it was exactly the same thing. Like, there was no one around me who was interested in what I was reading. And then just this little tiny corner of Instagram, and then there was Sarah. And
Hi.
the rest is history, right?
Yeah, I think I joined Bookstagram like the year before, so pretty much a year before, and I had like the same experience really. Reading has always been such like an introverted activity, and then I don't know why I decided to start a Bookstagram page one day, but I still remember like the evening, I didn't put any thought into it or anything. I just decided to take a picture and uploaded them, and then like you don't know anyone to start with, and you're like trying to find your people. And like I absolutely loved it, and to this day there's still like Bookstagram accounts that I made really good friends with back then, but they just read completely different books to what I really liked, and there wasn't much adult fantasy in like the Bookstagram accounts that I was seeing. And Sally, I don't even know how we started talking, but I think, was it to do with Robin Hobb?
No, you sent me a copy of From Blood and Ash without a note. And I put a call out on my Bookstagram saying, "Oh, who sent this to me? I really want to read this. I'm really like, thank you." And then Sarah reached out to me and said it was me. I'm like, oh my god, hello. And then I think then you started reading like Robin Hobb maybe shortly after. And obviously I love Robin Hobb. I was just very excited.
The Ship of Magic for Christmas. You sent it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, like, that's my favourite. So
You sent it to me saying this is my favourite ever trilogy, because I was reading it as Farsia at the time.
Oh, I've forgotten. That's
I know,
really
we were
nice.
so cute back then. What happened to us?
So with the amount of sort of free advertisement that you do, Sarah, for the Farseer or the Realm of the Elderlings, you only started reading it 18 months ago.
Yeah, I started like my whole Robin Hobb journey has been witnessed by everyone that's followed me on Instagram. To like I was very like open about what I was going through. Like I remember reading like Assassin's Quest, especially is the one that sticks in my mind because I was literally just like having these breakdowns on my stories. But it sold it. I was like getting so many messages and like stories, people tagging me and saying they'd gone out and bought it, and I'm like, my tears are selling this book so well.
That's what we want to be emotionally destroyed.
That is the goal for like
Yeah.
most fantasy readers, isn't it? Really. So I
What
have
was book number 2 then?
well, I have really strong memories of this one because this is when we had our first voting.
Disagreement.
I can't remember what the other books were, but somebody suggested The Eye of the World as one of the reads when we were doing our vote.
Was that
Well,
book
you
2?
suggested it, Sarah. Oh no, because you came in after.
Maybe it was
I-
Dean.
No, because I was unhauling it and then I decided to keep it and I posted on Instagram about it. You were like, we're gonna read it, come and join the Discord. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
But by that point, I'd like made peace with it. But to start with, I was raging that someone had suggested it. I was like, I'm not reading The Wheel of Time. It's a really important book that we're reading in my book club that I've started. I'm gonna have to fucking read it. And like, I would never, whenever anyone had mentioned it in the past, I just like would just shut down because I didn't even know anything about it. You know, when you just hear it's that many books, so many characters. Hasn't it got like the most characters in a series or something?
Yeah, it's some crazy number, like 1,600 or something.
I was like, nope, that is not for me. So then I was going on Instagram and like trying to sabotage the voting by getting people to come in and
A
vote.
practice you have continued.
I don't do that anymore. Oh, so yeah, but that's where it started. Didn't fucking work though because Eye of the World did win, but I ended up absolutely loving it.
Widening your sphere.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's like it's just so up my street because it's like really cheesy, tropey, classic, like chosen one, like every fantasy trope. Quest, Sally. I just love
Yeah,
it.
that's why I refuse to read it. I know I'm not gonna like it, so I'm like...
Do you refuse to read it, Sally?
Yeah, it's like it's like I know it's like a massive hole in my fantasy knowledge because I like to think of myself as quite well read as far as fantasy goes, but I just know that I just won't like it, and honestly, like
Won't as well.
yeah, like honestly, hearing my friend Oren talk about it, he just moans about it as he reads it, so I don't have any desire.
You've got to read The Wheel of Time, baby.
I know he always says that, but he berates it at the same time. So yeah, I know it's a really long fantasy series. It's very foundational. There might be some value in me reading at least the first one, but I just don't think I'll like it, and I'm quite at peace with having this hole in my knowledge.
Knowing
Max is going to be shouting at the screen as he watches this. You know that, right?
He knows. I've never hidden it. So.
Have tried to convince you to read it?
Sorry?
Has Max tried to convince you to read it?
No, actually. So.
It makes me feel slightly... I didn't know this, Sally, and I feel slightly better now because I thought I was going to reveal for the first time to everyone's horror that I did not finish Wheel of Time, and I don't think I've admitted that in the Discord.
No, I didn't know if you started because I know that your book arrived late because that used to happen to you every month.
It did. We won't mention the famous bookshop that is very, very good at delivering books late. It's not Waterstones because I'm worried that everybody's going to now start thinking it's the Waterstones problem. It wasn't. It was not Waterstones.
Oh, God.
I got about a quarter of the way through and I had to put it down. It just wasn't vibing with me. Oh, I hate that word vibing, but yeah, it wasn't vibing with me. And then I thought, all the TV series is coming out. I'll figure out what's going on through the TV series, and then I've still not finished the TV series either. So
I have to say the TV series certainly did not convince me to read the book.
I've done 3 books now, and the TV series has put me off continuing. But it's interesting though because I do feel like you two, James and Sally, have very similar reading tastes. So it doesn't surprise me that you didn't finish it either.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of overlap.
Yeah, we love smut.
But
actually do.
this is also a very special time because, as you've just mentioned, Sarah, it was the time when you joined. And you finished it. You didn't let
I
the tea
finished
down.
it and I loved it. I thought it was such an easy read and it was so comforting. I think because it's so tropey and so classic, it was just easy to read. But I haven't carried on. I have bought them all.
Well, we're good at doing that, aren't we?
Yeah, one step at a time. I've bought them. I had to get them all in before the covers came out with the TV stickers on. But yeah, they're looking at me as well, so maybe I'll pick up the next one soon.
Prioritise Hob though.
Of course.
Yeah. I remember Erin reading it and enjoying it because she like flew through it like she always does, and I was like living for her updates through like the first, because she always like starts the book, doesn't she, the book club read on like the first day, and she's done it within like the first few days. But it's really good because you've already like someone's like tried it for you. She's like the Discord guinea pig when it comes to the book club reads.
She does
I really
excellent
like
updates as well.
Yeah, she does.
I really like finishing the book and going back and unclicking all the black spoiler boxes and reading what other people have said before.
When you're not as far and you just want to press
Yeah.
back. So I think the next one was our favourite, Sarah. Am I right?
I think it might have been. Would it be that one?
Yes, look, we're matching.
Such a pretty edition. I'm like,
This is showing off, isn't it? This is showing off.
It's so beautiful.
Sorry. So hard to see which way this is meant to be.
Yes, it was just really fun. I was so excited, and I was wearing my Jurassic Park t-shirt as well when the vote result got announced. I was like, this is just fate. It's amazing. I was worried.
Real close vote, wasn't it? So like for the last few minutes we were like,
yeah, it was.
It was really
fun.
exciting.
Do you remember what the other book was?
No, I can't actually.
Not as good as this, obviously.
No. This Jurassic Park is definitely one of my favourite books that we've read together because I was a huge Jurassic Park fan growing up of the films, and I'd just never read it because it's one of them that I always thought can't be as good as the films. But I really enjoyed reading it.
I'm old enough to have watched it in a cinema, and it was terrifying. I was about 11 and I was absolutely petrified the whole way through. But I loved that film so much. It was one of those ones, when you're off home sick from school and you've got like favourite films, and we'd recorded it off the telly over and over and over again. I would watch it. So I was really worried when we actually got around to reading it, but it was wonderful.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You never know if it's going to like ruin those memories.
Was the book better than the film?
The book was different, yeah. Actually, it's a lot more sciencey, I think. And the characters were a bit different, weren't they?
I think for like our generation, it's so hard to, because it's not just the film, is it? It's everything that comes with it, like the nostalgia, the memories. Like Sarah was just saying, we like it's like your childhood. So it's not necessarily that the film is better, but like it's just your love for it.
I think that's a really key point, though. So childhood, seeing people read Jurassic Park is such a. I love it, and I'd read it before we did it in the book club. But people are definitely, they put their nose up at it sometimes, going, "Oh, it's a book about dinosaurs. I'm not going to read that." But actually, when they do, they enjoy it, and I think they start feeling like a kid again, and actually go, "Dinosaurs are bloody cool." And dinosaurs running around eating people is even cooler. But the book is real, and I think that's what people fear about the book, is that it's so far-fetched that they're not going to enjoy it. No, it's not fantasy, it's not fire-breathing dragons or people shooting fireballs or laser beams from their eyes. It is literally grounded in very, very well researched and believable science. I'm sure from the 80s when it was published, science has changed. I mean, dinosaurs have feathers these days, I think, but it does make you absolutely believe that this is possible, could have happened, could happen. In fact, they're actively, the Americans are thinking of bringing back a woolly mammoth, aren't they, or something along those lines. That it grounds it so well before it gets into all the stuff of the rampaging and what you see in the film and stuff like that. And I just loved seeing everybody sort of become childish and go, actually, this book's really good. And I hope people go on and read
Yeah.
Lost World, and there's other books as well written by the same author, Michael Crichton, however you pronounce his.
Crichton.
Crichton, yeah.
That's probably right.
I very much enjoyed this book, very, very much. And I'm going to give a shout out to Galley Beggar Press, who are a little publishing house in Norwich, which is where I spent a very large part of my life. Actually on the road next to where they're based. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed it. It was a little bit weird. I'm not going to lie. I don't fully understand what happened. But I was really into it, and like I could visualize everything, and it was just really fun. And yeah, I just loved it. And I've got 2 copies of the sequel that I'm excited to read.
Why have you got 2 copies?
I bought the hardback to match this one, which I got off you. But I'm a Galley Beggar Press subscriber, so I've got a black paperback edition as well.
Nice. That's exciting.
I didn't even realise that Sarah enjoyed it, because all I'd heard about this buddy read was that everyone really hated it.
I think a few people enjoyed it, didn't they?
Maybe
Marmite.
Dean
Everyone
is
either
like-
hated it or loved it. It just gave me whiplash.
Yeah.
Like, it started off really good, I think, and then just over the time, you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And then it was like I absolutely hated it, and I had no intention of carrying on. But then that ending, like, for fuck's sake, I'm gonna have to read the next one now. But I don't know, the time's passed and I don't really care anymore.
So do you still feel that way? Because sometimes if you leave it long enough, you actually think, now I can't be bothered.
Yeah. I just think there's too many books that I need to read that I'm probably not, unless Sarah says it's like a million times better, but
I'll let you know.
okay.
I mean, I'll make a prediction about Mordew, is that it will be a Tim Burton film at some point. That was kind of the imagery that went through my head. It was very good at the imagery, but I always had like a Tim Burton film in my head as I was reading it.
Like the actual writing, the like narration of the story was really like effective, but yeah, it just lost its shit, really. I'm excited to talk about the next one, but I'm not excited to say it because I still, after all this time and after everything that was discussed, do not know how to say it. Is it Dune or June? What team are you on,
like
guys?
a sand dune? June, like a sand dune.
What you think?
I grew up by the seaside, so it's a sand dune to me. Therefore, the book is June.
So is that 3 votes for June?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's many for Dune. I always thought it was June, and then I said it on my Instagram stories, and I had loads of messages saying you're saying it wrong. So then I did a poll on my Instagram stories, and it was hundreds of people, and it was like near 50-50. I've listened to it.
So many people can't read.
I've and I still don't know the answer. So I'm not sure we'll ever get the answers that we need for that, but
what we have discovered is the fantasy and sci-fi version of Scone or Scone.
Exactly. Just showing off these edges because
that edition is really pretty.
It's so pretty. So this was another book that I don't think I ever would have read, except for I seen the trailer for the film and I was like, oh, that looks good, because it had Timothée Chalamet in it. And then we decided, I think, because there was a few people that wanted to watch the film but they wanted to read it first, that we were going to do it as a group read rather than it being voted for. And I could not open it. I could not bring myself to like pick the book up. Do you ever get that, where you're just like so intimidated by a book that you just like, I would get it down and I'd take it around with me and I'd just like sit there and I physically could not open the cover and start reading it.
It is a very intimidating book. I think because it's quite old and it has that really distant, omniscient prose, makes it a lot harder to get into. And because it's so fat, you're like, oh, I gotta.
And it has no chapters.
Is it not?
No. It has no natural, like I'm someone that needs to stop at the end of a chapter. I can't just stop in like the middle of a page. There's no natural like places to stop through the book.
Mine had chapters. I have the folio edition.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because they had like pictures at the top of each.
Oh,
like, yeah.
I don't know if this one does actually, because I've not. I was like reading.
I could check my book, but it's downstairs.
This one definitely doesn't.
Oh, okay.
You know what?
Maybe it was.
It doesn't, does it? I don't remember that about it.
Yeah, and that's like another reason why it was so hard.
I'm gonna go check later.
Yeah.
Let you know. I'm sure I had chapters.
But because I like put off starting it so long, luckily loads of other people started before me, and then quite a few people saying, "Oh, it's actually really good." And then I really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not going to say that like I absolutely loved it, and I was like, I found it a hard read, and like I think it was like a real accomplishment when I finished. It's not something that I could just like read all the time, like it felt like work, but I did really enjoy it.
It's because it's such a foundational book. Although I really didn't like it very much, but I still am pleased that I read it, because you can kind of see. It's like when I read Earthsea, I can see its influences on some of my favourite authors and tropes and stuff. But it is, as Sarah said, it was a slog to read.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't like the film either, because I
Did
thought
you not?
no, because the best bit about Dune is that whole first third about the bit like who's the traitor, and you know who the traitor is, but no one else does, and it's all the like awkward dinner scenes and
the dinner party was amazing, and I can't believe that wasn't in the film.
I know, and then the film like just did it in like 5 minutes, and then there was just too many long lingering shots of Zendaya and spaceships taking off, and it didn't need to be too. There was a lot of Timothy Chalamet, yeah, I don't think it needed to be 2 films, but it's my opinion. Yeah, but I enjoyed reading because again I had just read Dune actually before the body read, so I was kind of involved in the discussion, but I wasn't actually reading it at the same time as everyone else.
Yeah. Did you two read it?
I didn't. I've got that edition and it's sat on the shelf.
Probably going to sit there for a while.
It was the second time that I've read Dune when we did it as a Dune. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. As part of the group read, and it still sits on my CV as achievements that I've actually sat and read the whole of Dune twice now. And I think my feeling at the end was, where's the certificate, when's it arriving, well done, you've like you said, it's a foundational novel, and I think it is great, and and I really enjoy loads of elements for it, but it is a slog to read. So get to the end of it, I'm like, yes, somebody come pat me on the back, give me some sort of reward, I've done it. But I can't remember what I felt about the book and the discussion that we had with the book, because I finished it just before we went to go and see it at the cinema, and I didn't pay attention to what tickets I bought for the cinema. So we actually saw it in 4DX or something like that. It's one of those where your seats move, they pump smell into the thing. And I just remember there is a scene when a character spits, which is obviously common in Dune because of the desert setting, and the chair in front of me fired a squirt of water into your face as it happens. And that's all I can remember about that period of time, just sort of being in a cinema straight after reading it and the chair spitting in my face alongside a character on the film doing it. That is all I can remember.
Oh, that's awful. That is not what you want.
It was great. It's great. I wouldn't watch every film in 4DX or whatever the equivalents are across the chains, but it is a film that actually suited going to watch it like that, with the effects that they do. Either that or the person in front just turned around and spat in my face. But I'm pretty sure it was the chair that did it. It was an experience anyway.
The next book is Hogfather, and I didn't read that, so.
Oh, we're up to Christmas already.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hogfather. I love Hogfather. Obviously, it's by Terry Pratchett. He's one of my favourite authors. Yeah, obviously like it.
Believe how underread I am when it comes to Terry Pratchett. It's really bad when you read The Colour of Magic.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says The Colour of Magic is a really bad one to start with. I did start with it, and I read them all in chronological order, and I would still maintain that I I think it's a rewarding way to read it. But yeah, I think getting someone to get involved in the Discord.
Yeah.
Actually, Hogfather's quite a good one.
Yeah.
It does stand alone, and it's a Christmas story. You can read it at Christmas. It still makes sense.
And
Yeah,
Death is the perfect character.
I love him. Like one of the best characters ever made. But all the Death books are my
Sally
favourite.
thinks Death is a great character. What?
We've gone off completely off topic.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Well, you know what's next, don't you?
No, what is next? It's my
No.
favourite. This
There
is my
he
favourite
is.
buddy read that we've done.
This is the defining moment of Fantasy Fellowship.
Yeah, this was it kind of came around the same time that we started the Battle of the Five Worlds readathon run up as well. So we got like a huge influx of members, which was quite overwhelming.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It's definitely the one where we broke the broken binding, because they had members of the Discord emailing them saying we bought these books and they'd sold out, and that's where everybody was buying them from. So yeah,
Fine, don't they?
Yeah, he signed them. I will never get rid of this book ever.
Not get a signed one. So Illborn was interesting. It was definitely the most engaging book club chat that we've had in the history of our book club.
Yeah, I think it was probably the first book that we really did have like such polarizing opinions of it, because of the way some of the themes are handled in the book. It just made for some really lively discussion about like its more problematic elements, how fun it is. I find the writing is really addictive, even though it's not overly polished. And we also got Daniel T. Jackson to do a Q&A with us as well. So there was that level that everyone wanted to read it, I guess, to ask him questions. And yeah, I love the whole buddy read so much. It's nerding out over like writing technique and fantasy and all things that I love. So it definitely sticks in my mind as my favourite buddy read we have ever done, even though I did have major issues with the book itself. I still had so much fun reading it.
Yeah.
And I probably will still read the next one just because of how much fun I had. So yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
It's like the dawn of time book for me, which was, I think there's so much that we now do in Fantasy Fellowship is actually because of Illborn. So I think it was the first truly sort of indie book that we read, and we've got the president of the Indie Book Appreciation Society with us tonight, because it was self-published, I think, by Daniel T. Jackson. Also, it's the first Q&A that we did, and we've just literally gone through the most stressful few weeks of my life in doing the Fantasy Fellowship online convention. But you know, out of Illborn came the belief that we can do author Q&As, and that's something that we should do a lot more of. Hello convention, maybe not quite that leap straight away, but that's what happened. And also the fact that we want to support, highlight more, sort of indie authors. And I think, all that came out of talking to Daniel T. Jackson. So yeah, I remember the start of Illborn really well. I remember opening it and reading that first prologue and thinking, yes,
everyone loves the prologue.
Yeah, this is something different. This is going to be great. And I really enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it. And then scurrying onto the Discord to go, I need to talk to you, and then realizing, oh, there's a lot of people with a very different opinion to what I've got. Maybe I should stay quiet and see what goes on. But I agree with you, Sally. It was a thoroughly enjoyable read, but it did polarize opinion across the Discord.
Yeah, it was one of the ones where I was desperate to click on the black boxes because there was so much chat around it, and there were lots of emojis going on. I was like, what the hell are they talking about? So yeah,
it wasn't for me.
No.
I think I only read 6 chapters in the end. But I
you
agree.
DNF'd it.
This. Sorry,
You DNF'd it.
I did. Yeah.
Louise would be proud.
No, I read far too much for Louise. But I agree. It was so interactive as far as the community was concerned, and I will always remember where I was when the Q&A was happening, because I was in a taxi with some friends and I'm desperately trying to follow along all this text going up the screen, and also trying to hold a conversation with everybody else in the car. But I'm like, yeah, sure.
Like, it was such an amazing evening though. Everyone was just so engaged, weren't they? And I just think like the Illborn buddy read marks the time that like fantasy fellowship started to become this real whirlwind, especially for me and you, Sally. Like, we were just non-stop,
We did
like,
it by ourselves.
every day. We were trying to like plan this bloody battle that just kept getting bigger and bigger, and throwing more things into it, and then we were like, oh, I can't wait for March, and then can't wait for like May until it's finished, and it's just never really finished.
No.
It's gathering momentum.
I can't believe we did it by ourselves. Like, we got such a massive team now.
Yeah,
I don't know how we did it.
I know.
Yeah.
But we did, and
We did.
So there you go. There you heard it here first. Illborn officially was the book that launched Fantasy Fellowship properly.
Thank you, Daniel. Well, the next book is one of my all-time favourites, and definitely the book that I have enjoyed reading with the Discord the most, even though it was a reread for me. It's The Name of the Wind. It was just so lovely. Like, I don't know why, but around that time, well, it was March, so I do know why I was stressed. Fantasy Fellowship. But I was like, I'm gonna like have a week off Instagram. I'm just gonna like spend less time on my phone and just kind of like try and like chill out a bit. And you know, when you just have like those books that you remember reading and you were just really cozy and you like remember the whole process of reading them, sort of thing. And it was just, I just don't think there's anything like better than you're reading like one of your favorite books with other people, and most of the people that read it were like absolutely loving it too, and it's just so nice. And then you get to talk about all your favorite bits and your favorite characters, and yeah, I just loved everything about it. Even though like I do love the fact that the book club makes me read books that I wouldn't have read, I do love like rereading books as well with everyone. I don't know if any of you read that one.
Yes, I did. It's I mean, there were so many passionate people about this book in the Discord that there is definitely a future conversation purely around Name of the Wind, Wise Man's Fear, and then oh no, wait, it's it's still waiting. But
What a little shit.
but it's so poetically written. You know, it is a gorgeous book to read because of the prose that is in there. It is, I mean, to really simply sum it up, it reminds me of that when I was a kid, there used to be a program about skeletons, and it used to be down a dark alley in a dark house in a dark. You know. Name of the Wind was like the adult version of that for me. You know, it's so, you know, sort of that sort of poetic all the way through. Not 100% sure I understood it all the way through, I have to admit, but I was certainly sort of admired by the just the wordsmithing on it. It just reads so well.
There's another reread for me. Well, I didn't actually reread it, but like I had read it a long time before. And I think I might have read it maybe a bit too young to appreciate the poetry of it, because I don't remember that about it. I do remember quite liking it and being annoyed that there was no third book. Yeah, it was interesting watching everyone talk about it.
Yeah, I didn't read it with everybody at the time. I read it a long time ago, but it was nice following along and watching everyone's reactions to the lyrical prose and just generally.
Yeah,
it's quite a few people's
nice
favorite book. It's quite a few people's favorite book as well in the Discord. There's some really passionate people in there.
Well, obviously, Sally, the next book is yours to talk about.
Yes, so it was the month of the readathon, so we were picking the group room for the readathon, and I was head of the Northman team, and someone, I don't know who, suggested the Blade itself. I actually didn't vote for the Blade itself. I voted for something else.
Wow!
I think I voted for the sword of. I voted for the sword of Kaigen. That was yes. So here it is. I think I changed my vote tactically at the end, so I wouldn't have to read the other thing, because I thought I'd rather reread the Blade itself than read whatever the other thing was. And it was lovely. Like, I was really, it was, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite books, because it's not, but obviously it is Joe Abercrombie, who is probably my favorite author at the moment. And everyone, like most people, got really into it. Like the vast majority of people who participated in the buddy read really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed rereading it as well. And I reread it via audiobook with the Stephen Pacey audiobooks, and they are fantastic. I'm actually rereading the whole series at the moment with Stephen Pacey. And I know there were a few people that obviously didn't get all of it, including present company here. And I don't know, it was, like Sarah was saying earlier, like it's so nice to see people reading a book that you love and discovering it for the first time, and things that they love about it, and wanting to carry on as well. It was validating, and I got to nerd out over the first lot. So yeah, it's one of my favourites. It's not quite as good as the Illborn buddy read, but it was up there.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd heard of Joe Abercrombie prior to joining the Discord, so I hadn't read anything beforehand. But I was so excited to read it, just because you're so excited about Joe Abercrombie.
I don't know why. I fucking hate him. The other thing also was, because I was head of the Northman team, which was one of the teams in the last readathon, and I kind of feel like a lot of people, when we were doing our campaign especially, didn't really understand what like a lot of our references were, or the tone of our campaign, and then they read the Blade itself, and then suddenly it kind of makes sense to people, so that was fun as well. Did you enjoy it, Sarah? I don't actually know what you thought about it in the end.
I did enjoy it. It wasn't what I expected, I don't think, in any way. But yes, I did really enjoy it. And then the broken binding, hello. So now I have really pretty editions to read as well. And I've started the second one, which is another one that I started and then put down. But I will go back to it. Just you keep doing readathons and conventions, and everything gets crazy, and I've got too many books.
Yeah, lots of reading obligations. The second one is actually it was my favourite in the trilogy originally, but after rereading them recently, I think the third one is my favourite. But that's because it's echoed so much by my favourite trilogy, which is The Age of Badness. Like there were so many callbacks to that third book. So yeah. Would you like to give your thoughts, Sarah? I know you didn't get on with it so well, so
I don't think like my thoughts are that strong with it really. Like I don't hate it. I was playing up to that a bit from enemies in the battle, but no, I don't hate it. I think like it was one of those books that I probably went into expecting too much, because there is so much hype, and like a lot of people that love Robin Hobb do love Joe Abercrombie. So I think I was expecting to really love it. And like this was a reread for me as well, because I'd read it like last year, I think. I did actually enjoy it more this time around, and I listened to the audiobook. And like it's fine to me, but like so many people that have also said that about the Blade itself have then gone on to really enjoy the further ones, like Luke and Laura on Instagram. They've been like buddy reading them, and I know they like absolutely loved the second two in the trilogy. So I do need to go to it at some point, and Dean obviously absolutely loves it. So yeah, I am going to try more.
I mean, The Blade itself is probably objectively his worst book, but I mean, I still love it. It's still a good book. It's Joe Abercrombie, but it is. The plot is really subtle in it, so I think like when you first read it, you don't really think there's a plot.
Yeah.
On a reread, I could definitely see the plot happening, but it is really in the background. And then the second book has a lot more plot, so I think it is worth. It's one of those things where if you don't get on so well with it, reading the next one will kind of determine, a bit like Robin Hobb, I suppose, will kind of determine if we should continue or not.
And Glockton was amazing. What a
he's one of the best.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He is
He's one of the best fantasy. Yeah,
absolutely fantasy characters out there. It surprises me you don't enjoy the books more, Sarah, actually, because of the, and I'm not casting any sort of aspersions, but the sort of really sarcastic dry and witty sense of humour that's kind of through most of Joe Abercrombie's work. I'm not saying if Glockter was a person around this table, it would be you. But
wow.
Nice, it's accusation. I've never been anything but nice.
Glockter's nice-ish. So.
But it is one of those characters that are just so memorable, and that you enjoy when you get through to the chapters that are, you know, his storyline through it. You know, I think particularly in the Age of Madness, there's a lot more Glockter in there, and it's like, yes, come on, this is what I'm here to read.
He doesn't go away. He comes back.
Going to get Last Argument at King's signed by Joe Abercrombie is the first time I've ever gone to an author signing. And then as I was getting closer and closer to the front, and people had like spending like a couple of minutes talking to him, taking selfies or pictures, I'm like, shit, what am I going to say to him? I've got no idea. So when the time came, and I'm going to hate myself for admitting this now, what I said to him was, your characters make me actually laugh out loud.
Because it's true.
It was awful. I've stood there like, and he just looked at me like, good, and then signed the book. And it was,
no.
I was like walking away, going, I just actually said LOL out loud, and no,
You didn't
no,
say LOL. You didn't say LOL.
no, I said laugh out loud. I wouldn't have used LOL, but it's still, to me, it's still like the same thing.
The next book is another one of my favourites. And so this book, right, I read it like, I think it was last year. Yeah, it was definitely last year. Have you got it there? Yeah.
I have, yeah.
Everyone's got it. Don't know where mine is actually. So I read it last year, and it was like, you know, when you just kind of pick something off the shelf, you don't really know much about it, and no one I knew had read it. No one on Bookstagram that I'd seen had read it. I think I'd seen it in like a BookTube video. And like I just wasn't expecting for it to have the impact that it had on me. Like I read it in like 24 hours, and I was just like,
wow,
so intense. And it just completely like I was just absolutely amazed by it. And then I literally told everyone, like screaming in everyone's inboxes, that they had to read it immediately, like Dean. And because I just needed other people, because there's, you know, I think most of you have read it now, but like there's like certain bits that you just need to talk about. And it's like the book, probably out of all books except maybe Project Hail Mary, that I like get as much from reading it like secondhand from someone else as I did reading it myself. I just love like witnessing people go through it all and like updating me. So like getting to read it with everyone again was just amazing, and really like brutal. All of like everyone's hearts just breaking. Like
yes,
it was great.
So literally every single day, everyone like started crying and like posting, "Oh, I'm in tears now." It got me as well. Even though, like,
channel.
Yeah, it definitely is a powerful book, I think.
But you didn't love it, did you, Sally?
My issues with it were mainly technical though. Like the actual story and the characters and the events are brilliant. I really enjoyed that part of it, but obviously it is a self-published book, and it does kind of come with the territory. There might be technical errors or inconsistencies, but I found it really difficult to ignore with that one, and it did impact my enjoyment of the book. But it's still again, it's one of my favorite buddy reads because of the engagement with it.
Yeah,
there was so much chat, and lots of people really loved it. I liked reading about people, how much they loved it.
It's a very emotional read. So many emotions involved, and so many like different experiences, I think, with that book, like depending on whether like you're a mother or like different, and quite a few people were like talking about that as well. So it was
for me, it was the depiction of grief. Of grief was very, very raw and very true. I was, especially at the time, I was like really struggling with grief. So it's pretty, it's worth a read, definitely.
Yeah, Did you,
Did
two
you
read?
actually reread it, Sarah, or did you
Yeah.
just read along with everyone? Read comments and stuff.
I reread it.
You did.
What was
you-
it like the second time around, knowing what was coming?
Oh, awful. Worse, much worse. Because yeah, like it's so hard to talk about it without like giving any spoilers, but yeah, I remember because Rory had read it before, was rereading it again, and I was like saying to him, this is literally so much worse second time around because I just know what is about to like hit me, and because I knew it was going to hit everyone else. Like even though I really enjoyed like how like intense it was and how emotional it was, like it was also awful because you just know like how much pain everyone was suffering for it.
Yeah.
You read it a different time, didn't you? Had you already read it?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I read it with the group.
Oh.
Did I?
I think you did.
Did I? No, I'm not sure. I feel like I read it before the group read.
I thought you might have, but
I think I read it before the group read and then followed along. This year's blurred
what are
into
your
one.
thoughts on it?
I was a little bit skeptical, I think, because you'd loved it so much. I was like, oh, really? But it was all the things you said it was. And
God,
it's so it's so engaging and easy to read, and another one that's really easy to visualize as well, that you could see everything that was happening. And yeah, I mean, obviously I cried.
I think everyone cried, literally everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think a single person did not cry. So, yeah.
Did you read it, James?
No, I've not read this one yet, so
Oh.
I'm looking forward to the tears. You know, that's good.
Yeah, so we read Leviathan Wakes, I think it was in November. I have had this recommended to me so many times, and everyone loves the Expanse series on Amazon. And it was a nice long series. I was like getting stuck into a nice long series. So yeah, I was very pleased when we decided to do a buddy read of this one. And then I ended up not really enjoying it all that much, unfortunately. I know. I think it was weird because it's like half of it's kind of crime noir, which is like I liked all the spacey stuff more. And I also felt oddly claustrophobic in the setting, even though it was in space, because it was all us in our own galaxy rather than anything, or not even our galaxy, in the solar system, rather than other universes and things. So yeah, I think I will eventually carry on with the series because apparently it does get better. I did start watching the show, and I'd like to go back to watching it. So yeah, I think it's one that I'll probably form an opinion on when I've read a few more. I don't actually remember much discussion around this book. I know we definitely did have some, but I don't remember what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I'd swapped this with you. So did I send you a hardback of The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell? Tune into YouTube to hear more of that later.
No, it was the second one.
Enemy of God.
Yeah, because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Okay, so I sent you Enemy of God, and you sent me Leviathan Wakes. I hadn't heard of the TV series or the book series before. I think we picked up Leviathan Wakes as a buddy read. And I think you are right, Sally. I think it's one of our quieter reads that we did do. But I mean, I am evangelical about sci-fi TV series, movie series. We said we'd come back and do the Star Wars debate at some point, Sally. But I always struggled with sci-fi and reading it, and I don't know why. You know, fantasy, I've got an imagination for, and you can whisk me away to the world. But when I actually read sci-fi, I really, really struggle. Sit me in front of an alien film, and I'm like, this is the best film ever. You know, we should have more of this. Read the book, I struggle. I don't know why. But Leviathan Wakes, I just picked it straight away. And you are right, it was claustrophobic, but that made it really real. I felt the same thing. I mean, somebody that feels claustrophobic in their own galaxy, you've got issues, Sally. You know, that's quite an expanse that you are.
I did
you
change
are feeling.
the solar system, to be fair.
But it did do a really good job of, and some sci-fi I struggle with, it has to explain how you got to where you got to, what the politics are, what the the players are, and I think this did it really, really well because of that crime, noir sort of setting that it did. And I ended up thoroughly enjoying it, and I probably enjoyed it more than Dune. Controversial opinion, but because of the hefty sci-fi, I don't enjoy so much. But I've carried on with the series, and it does, in my mind, it gets richer. I wouldn't necessarily it gets better, but because it builds with each sort of book and explains something else, it's definitely a series that gets richer and richer.
I will continue. I think the main issue I had with it was the crime noir stuff that I'm really not interested in. Like, I want to read if I want to read a science fiction book, I want something like Project Hail Mary or The Martian, proper spacey stuff. But I'm pretty sure that stops for various reasons in Leviathan Wakes. So.
Did you read it, Sarah?
I did. I actually quite liked the crime noir side of it. I don't naturally gravitate to sci-fi, so I wonder if that's why perhaps it was more accessible for me, because it wasn't really sci-fi, even though it's set in space. But it was another one that was just really easy to read and really quick to read and enjoyable and just a fun time for reading. And I will carry on with the series. I've got the next one over there on the shelf waiting to be read with everything else.
I'm seeing a pattern
but it is definitely one that I want to carry on with. But again, it's another one that I hadn't heard of and would never have read without the Discord.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bump it up the list, I think. I'm intrigued. Well, that's going to bring us to our last book, I think, which is another one that I didn't actually read, unfortunately, because I don't really know why. That's just a slump.
It's we're talking about The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. I did read it. I loved it. It's one of my friend Oren, who is also on the Discord, who I know before he joined the Discord. He's gone on about Jen Williams for literally years, about how underrated she is and how good her characters are. So I was really excited to read this one. I was so excited when it got voted as a body read. I think we benefited from the fact that the Broken Binding had just done a beautiful edition that Sarah just showed off. So everyone with their Broken Binding subscriptions on the Discord were, let's read that one. So
interesting though, because everyone, obviously we've all got to know each other and each other's reading taste, and everyone was very behind you reading it, weren't they, Sally? Everyone really wanted you to start reading it.
I don't quite know why. I got messages saying, when's Sally reading this? Sally, we want you to read it because we want to tell you things, or let's talk about it. I think one of the things the main characters reminded them that they were reminded of me whilst reading the character. I feel very flattered because she's amazing, but I still don't quite get it myself. So they wanted to discuss that with me, and they also thought that I would like it, and I did really like it. I was planning on reading the sequel for the readathon. Whether I'll get to it, I don't know, because it's a 2-pointer one. It is good. It's really interesting fantasy because it blends fantasy and sci-fi together. So a bit like Dune. So like Dune is primarily sci-fi but also kind of fantasy. Jen Williams is kind of the opposite, where it's primarily fantasy, but then does also have some really strong sci-fi elements as well, which I was not expecting at all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a really weird book to try and explain to anyone who hasn't read it, I think.
Yeah.
I read it before the buddy read. Actually, I'd got it out of the library. Support your local libraries, people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd seen it on Elliot Brooks' YouTube, and she absolutely adores that series. And I thought, I'll give it a go, get it out of the library, and lo and behold, the Broken Binding brought it out, and hooray! But yeah, it was just not what I was expecting. I think because it's so hard to describe the plot and the characters and what happens. But yeah, very good.
What about you, James? Did you read it?
Yeah, you keep calling me out in these last ones, so no, I'm very intrigued to read it now. I'm also very lucky to have a Broken Binding subscription, so there are 3 beautiful editions sat somewhere behind me, but it was like we were in the middle of having to write Discord rules and plan a convention when this one came out. And
That's how I did read it as well, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately it's had to go on the aspiration list for the readathon now, considering I am 15 minutes into Legends and Lattes for Charis Baldry, and some people have nearly completed their entire TBR. I am somewhat behind on my aspiration.
You're exactly what you're meant to be.
Yeah.
So I will get round to this one and come back with my thoughts at another point.
Yeah. Well, that is pretty much the history of the book club.
Yep.
So if you could
And
pick one book that would be our next book club pick, what would you pick?
Well, Project Hail Mary.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd
I'll
like
back
everyone to read that one. I'm just looking at.
I'm not going to pick Project Hail Mary because you've said it now, Sarah. But after this discussion, it sounds like it should be up there. But I think we need to finally get the Winter King read out there now. I'm going to be evangelical about it, given the other good news that we've announced today. Sally, you haven't read it. I know you've got a copy of it somewhere.
I do.
But it is. I would love
Sarah
people to
got it
get
for
into
me.
that. Into that series.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been so much fun to just reflect on the last year or so. You are always welcome to join us in the Discord at any time. There'll be a link down below, and you can follow us on Instagram at fantasy_fellowship. We have a Twitter at fanfellowship. And we also have a website, fantasy-fellowship.co.uk. We've got loads of exciting events coming up on our YouTube, including author Q&As, indie spotlights, fandom discussions, and monthly buddy read wrap-up. So if you want to subscribe, you'll get notified when our next video is out.